it's Desiree, and welcome, whether you're here for the first time or you just continue to come back. I do hope, and I can see, everyone is absolutely enjoying the Christmas series, so thank you so much. I know I saw there was a little bit of confusion when it came to the first week. I think a couple got scared that it was all going to be ornaments and tags, and absolutely not. Again, remember, this series is about digging into your stash, what we already have, and using it maybe a different way. Doesn't have to be a card. It can be an ornament. It can be a tag. It can be a wine tag. It can be garland. It can be anything that we want it to be. That's the beauty of paper. We turn it into that art through the creativity, inspiration, and that's what I want to promote here and give you inspiration on different ways to use those items that we already have. Now, that doesn't mean that I may not be using a new product. That's because I enjoyed the product. It could also mean that I am certainly digging into my stash. I have this paper pad that we're going to be working with because we're going to stick with our simplicity series for these within these 5 days. This is video number 4 in this series, but don't worry. I know, I have the feeling that when this week is done, people are going to be like, oh, it's going to come back. 2024, it's going to come back. And again, to dig into your stash, use what you have. Maybe you do like what I have. I will have it linked if it's below. But again, I cannot stress enough my focus. Look at the techniques that we're using and apply it to what you have. Whether that's in the same manner in which I used it, the technique, or use the technique for something completely different. Have fun with it. That's what this is all about for me. And I think it's going to stick around when it comes to the Christmas series. Kind of liking it. Okay, so let's get back into what our 4th video is going to be within our 3rd series, which is all about simplicity. Letting our pattern paper do the work for us. So in the first video, we just had fun breaking down a pad, looking at the different types of papers, kind of getting you into how I look at a paper pad. I know it could be a little scary. I apologize. Don't want you, wouldn't want anyone living in that brain there of mine. But to see, this is how I can break it down. And you can get very beautiful cards with that just by adding a couple sheets of solid cardstock. In the second one, we looked at 12 by 12 papers, and 12 by 12 papers, remember, are different, even though that 12 by 12 can also come in a 6 by 6. I handle them completely different, mainly because when it comes to the 12 by 12, the patterns are larger. So you kind of have to break them down just a little bit differently. When it comes to this video of what we're going to do, the 3rd video, we looked at a sketch from Call Me Crafty Al. Had all of her information linked in the previous video, so make sure you check that out. She does a wonderful job on her sheet load of cards every month. Beautiful design team that supports her in this creation, and then she even has a membership. But that can provide so much inspiration, and that's how I look at sketches. They provide that inspiration or that ability to create cards when I need them on the fly, and I'm just not thinking, it's just not coming to my brain of what I want this card to look like. In this video, we're going to look at a 6 by 6 paper pad. And we are going to create some of those fun elements that we have seen on other cards where we're using dies, where we're using all of those tools that are available and out there for us. My tools today are going to be a metal ruler, okay, a pair of scissors, a pencil. I am going to use a mechanical one because it keeps a point sharp. By all means, I grabbed these two as well. I am also going to use a paper trimmer. Okay, so because that's just going to make the cuts quicker, but you can certainly use a scissors. We'll see how that goes. I am going to pull in some solid cardstock that matches this, and I will have some card bases as well that we are going to use. Now, I'm not sure how many cards we'll make today. I'm shooting for 5. That's how many I would like to make. But we shall see, because here are my card bases. Now, I've actually cut these differently. Usually I take an 8.5 sheet paper, cut it at 4 1/4 along the short side, the 8.5 side, and then I fold it down for a top fold card. I score it along the 11-inch side at 5 1/2. This time I cut my paper like a hamburger, which means I cut it along the 11-inch at 5 1/2. And then I turned it, scored it along the 8.5 side at 4 1/4. I know that was so much information I just threw out there. So here you go. 5 1/2, 8.5, score at 4 1/4. All right. So I can either make this a top folding or a side folding. All right. So I've got those ready. That is what I'm going to use today. Now, I think this video, I'm going to be doing a lot of talking throughout the video, just to walk you through what I'm doing, how I'm making the cuts, what I'm looking at, and so forth. Okay, so you grab your supplies, let's have some fun creating together, and let's make some of those awesome, fun cards, but using no dies and no stamps. All right, so here we go. Okay, I have my pattern, my paper pad, and I also have 2 sheets of cardstock, one in a red and one in a green. So I'm going to set these aside over here so I can grab them. And now I'm just going to grab a card base and say, okay, what do we want to do? Well, first thing that I want to do is I want to create a frame. All right. And I'm going to use my ruler and pencil. So I want the frame to be 1 inch. So from this score line to this edge, it's going to measure 4 1/4. So on this side, I'm going to come in 3 1/4. On this side, I'm going to come in at 1 inch. And I'm going to move up and do the same thing. So 3 1/4. 1 inch, and I am going to connect these lines and very lightly just draw down that edge. I will also be pulling in an eraser and going to do the same thing. I'm going to connect in these lines and very lightly I'm going to come down. Then I'm going to do the same thing going this way. So this should measure 5 1/2, and it does. So 1 inch and 4 1/2. And I should have brought that down a little more, but that's okay because we're going to do it 3 times then, 4 1/2. And then I'm going to come up here and do the same thing. So you may see that my ruler is kind of going off the edge. So always make sure, you know, if you have a ruler, where does that 1 inch start? Mine starts right here. It does not start on the edge of my roller. And sometimes that happens. Very annoying. And we are going to do the same thing. I'm going to connect these lines, but I only need to draw in between these two. So I'll just make sure that I go into that area. And again, just connecting in those lines. Now, what I'm going to do, I never like to cut in on my mat that I film on, so I'm going to bring in another cutting mat. I'm going to move that out of my way, and I'm going to grab my ruler, and I'm going to grab a craft knife. So you want a craft knife that's sharp, not gooed up, and I have this one. I have no idea who it's by or anything else like that. Okay, yeah. And I'm just going to put this along the line. And I'm going to put it into the point, bring that ruler up, and I'm going to slice down to that first line. Watch your fingers. Take your time with this. And I'm going to turn, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to start at this point, bring the ruler up to my craft knife, make sure I'm lined up on the line, and I'm going to cut down, stop at that line, turn this, and I'm going to keep going around, again, getting that knife into the paper, sliding the ruler into place, and again, being very careful, taking your time so that you do not cut your finger. So if you're doing this with the kids, this is something that we as adults should be doing, and doing that for them. All right, but you do want a nice sharp blade. You want a clean blade. I do like this one. I don't know where I got it, how I got it, but I do like this one because it's got a cap, and that tells me don't use this for anything else. Okay, so we're going to pop that out. So now we have a frame on our card base. I'm going to come in with an eraser. I like to use either a white eraser, and if you're getting a red film, I do apologize. I'm wearing a red t-shirt today. I do like the white erasers, or I like the gum erasers to erase my pencil lines. So you're really not going to see these, so you don't have to worry about being too perfect, but it's my brain. I know they're there, so I want to make sure that they're not there. Okay. Now, I am going to use this piece here. We're going to set that up for a second. And I am going to cut a 4 by 5 1/4 panel from my green. I changed my mind. So first I'm going to take my green pattern paper and I'm going to quarter it. Now you could go straight to cutting it 5 or 4 by 5 1/4. I find it easier when I create to just have the paper cut down into quarters, which are 5 1/2 by 4 1/4, and then I'm good to go. And I'm going to take care of my red while we're doing this. Okay, we can get that out of my eye. So now what I want to do is take this panel and I'm going to cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to do that with a red as well. No, I'm going to do it with 2 greens. May have to grab another green. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this on my cutting mat, and I'm going to place this down onto my piece. Now, I'm just going to eyeball this, and I'm sure that's going to make some people crazy, but that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to eyeball this, and I'm going to take my pencil, and I'm going to go around this piece. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. And what I'm doing is lining this up in my grid on my cutting mat and then just eyeballing where this piece would sit if it was, you know, 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. Now, my eye's telling me to do this. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay. And I'm going to now cut this out. Now, what you can also do is I'm going to adhere this into place. And then you can flip this over and do your cuts. That's the other way that you can do this. So let's try it that one way. So I'm going to grab my glue and I'm going to put glue around this edge. And yes, I'm doing it to the inside. And then I'm going to come out just a little bit. And I'm going to place this piece on the inside. I'm going to erase these pencil lines. Now, no, if you do not have a craft knife, that's okay. You can puncture the center and then take your scissors in and cut around. And just cut along your lines as well. So know that you can do that too. So there are many different ways. Again, these are, you know, some tools that we're pulling out here. Now for this, I'm going to come out a little farther than our white line. So again, I'm going to come down and I'm going to do that again. And then I'm going to turn. Again, coming out just a little bit from that white edge. Turning. And then our final cut. And whenever you're using a craft knife with a straight edge, you want to make sure that you are going against that straight edge. So it's almost like you're angling your knife to it so that you can get that straight cut. Okay, because you can see, I mean, I can see it. This white up here is a little off, but it's okay. Now we're going to do the same thing here. We're now going to do it on the other side. I'm going to come out, just add a little bit more glue to the outside, knowing that we've got that edge. And now I'm going to place this one down. And now we're going to do the same thing. So now I'm going to come right up to this. And my knife is going to go right down in till it stops. I'm going to go right up to that edge this time. Again, going down, coming across. And you'll feel your knife stop, and you might be trimming what has already been cut as well, which is okay. All right, and then our last cut. And there I can see a little bobble. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to straighten that out. I know, right? And wait till you see, I really don't have to do this. But just to show you that you can. Okay, so now we have a frame and it's framed on each side. I'm going to put my cap back on my knife. Get that out of my way. Okay, now we're going to go back to our paper pad. I'm going to get my cutting mat out of the way. And I'm going to grab a couple sheets. I want this one. You're going to watch me flip through these. I want this one. I like that one. So just grabbing some ideas, basically one of each sheet almost, because you're going to see what we're going to do. And yeah, that's one more that wanted, and I already have that. Okay, so now I'm just going to put this aside because I've got a lot of the papers out already. I'm going to pull back in my trimmer, and from each of these sheets, I'm going to take notice of what is directional and what's not. And I'm always going to cut it on the directional way. So for this one, I'm just going to cut it 1.5 inches wide, and I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to cut this one 1 inch wide, and I'm going to set it aside. I'll put that right over there. Same thing here. I'm going to call this one 1 1/4 and setting aside. This one's going to go to 2, setting aside. And these, I want to cut out these cut aparts. And I'm just lining the line that's in the pattern paper along with my paper trimmer, and then just cutting down. And I'm going to set them aside as well, because they're going to come into the future cards. And let's see, this one's going to be 1 inch. So you can see I'm going 1 inch, 1/2 inch, 2 inches, and just looking at the pattern to say, okay, where does this one want to go? Or what would look good? Now, for this one, I'm going to recut it. I want this one to be 2 inches as well, because then I have a better look at that plaid pattern. And then for this, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to use these cut aparts because we can use them as our sentiment for our cards. Again, you know, no stamps, no dies. Now, let me just say this. If, like all that cutting that I just did to cut out our frame, if you do have nesting dies, enjoy. By all means, use them. I mean, that's why you have them. Again, remember, use your stash. Have fun with the stash. That is what we're doing here. Okay, these are cute little slicers. All right, we'll just throw those up there. And I think I have one more strip. Yes, I do. And then we'll get these done. Okay, so now that I have the pieces cut, again, we hold these, we put these in our reserve. These are trash. No, unless you want to keep them, have at it. I'm even keeping this strip. I might use that. And I still do have the 2 centers from my green cardstock and the white one that I could possibly use at some point as well. All right, so now let's look at these. I think this is absolutely adorable, so I want this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just cut shapes. So this one I'm going to cut like that. And this one I'm actually going to cut like this. And I'm going to cut that one in half. Keeping these together. This one I'm going to cut like this. And we're going to make a bigger one here for that. Cutting along. Make this one nice and tall. And we'll make this one nice and short. Like that. And then we're going to make this one like this. And this one, I'll cut a couple of them. I'm going to cut in between where these lines cross. Again, our lines don't have to be perfect. And we've got those. Okay. So what we can do is we can take this piece and set this within the frame on the back side of our card. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up and I'm going to get this glued down. Now I'm not going to press down here. I'm going to try to say, okay, here I am, I'm centered. I'm going to close this. Well, look at that. Okay. And we're going to set that down. So now we have the inside, I want to point out, the inside of the card created. How many times do y'all see me do that? All right, so now we have that. Now we're going to take our pieces here, and we can probably make them a little smaller. But what I'm going to do is create a border that goes around. Now again, we can make these smaller, we can bring these up to the side, and that's what I'm looking to do. Again, looking at where our pieces are sitting. Just looking at, okay, we can have this one sit like this one's like this. And again, I'm really liking the bright colors coming through. And we can create these layers that we have. So I really like that one there. So I'm going to put glue at the bottom and get that one set. And I want to make sure that I am not covering up my snowman. So we have that one there. This one I'm going to cut in half. And this is how we play with the different pieces. Okay, to look at, you know what, I kind of like this like that. I kind of want this one looking like that. This, I'm going to have that sit there, and I'm going to have this one sit here, like that. And remember, it's double-sided paper. So that's and again, make sure you go on the other side, clean off your glue. So you will have the design or something on the inside, which I think is pretty cool. This one I'm going to set right here, because I don't want to cover him up, but I do want to make sure that I have, you know, different elements sitting here. Have that sitting like that. And I think I'm going to cut this down. Again, let your eyes tell you. I mean, that's what I do. You know, my eye is telling me, yes, this looks right, or no, don't do that. That does not look right. I'm just going to tuck that little bit of red there, and then I think I'm going to take that red actually, and I'm going to tuck that right down into here as well. There we go. So now we have that. I'm going to take this sentiment and I'm going to cut it down. And again, I am not worried if my cuts are straight or not, because, and I know it's not, I can see it, but that's okay. So I'm going to put that there. So here's our first card. Again, just using a pattern paper, scissors. Yes, I'm using a paper trimmer. And again, that's for time when it comes to this video. Glue, because we need something to stick everything with. A pencil and a ruler and a straight edge and a craft knife. All right. But again, if you have nesting dies, please use them. So when we look at this, we open it up. There's our little snowman. And look, we do have a design here on the other side. Could you take the time to say, okay, I want this piece to be here. I want to cover this up here. Absolutely you can. Why not? So let's take this. We're going to take that down. You just want to make sure that you're lining up or just coming in just a little bit. And then we're going to take this one here. And again, it doesn't have to be the same shape. You just want it to create that illusion, if that makes sense. And then this one here, we can do right there. And we can even trim that down just a little bit. Put our glue along here. And get that set right there. There we go. So now, we have it looking like this. And then boop, we have it looking like that. And again, it's all in pattern paper and some solid. All right, let's go on to our next card. Okay, I have my next card base here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up again. I'm going to grab my cutting mat again, and I'm going to line up my score line on one of these lines here and the edge along that top. And what I'm going to do is I want to cut this to 3 inches. So I'm cutting off 1.25 inches. So I'm just going to line up my straight edge along that line. And now I'm just going to cut straight down. So this is good if you have like a smaller piece of, you know, solid cardstock and that's your card base. Okay. Here's a funky fold. all right, and we've cut it away, and that's all right. It's totally, totally okay, because still score it down at your 4 1/4 so that your back panel is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Okay, so now we have this flap. Let's take our pattern paper, and I am going to cut 2 1-inch strips from them. So here's one, all right, and I've cut along the 5 1/2, and we're going to do another 1-inch from the red. All right, and then from each of them, I'm going to cut a 1/2 inch strip. And I'm just keeping this off to the side so that I don't, drive you guys crazy with that. Okay. So I'm going to real quick put this down. Green. Making sure that's centered. I'm going to get this mat out of my way. Here we go. Same thing here. And we're going to hold those. Okay. So now I want to look at these cut aparts. Just looking through them. So we can create the illusion when it comes to our pattern paper and just cut it into sections. So we know this is 1 1/4 opening. So I'm going to go 1.5 inches. And I'm going to get this along this edge. And get that in place. And then trim off the excess. So now when we close it, we're not seeing the white card. And I'm going to take this and we're going to create an element that comes off of this. Now, I don't know if we're still going to use these because my mind is already going in another direction. Imagine that. I think we're going to save those. So for this, I'm going to pull in that piece of white cardstock that we used, that we cut out from our first card. And I'm going to place this down, giving a border the same around each side. And then I'm going to come in and use my scissors and give it the same border around that side. I'm going to look at my pattern papers. And choose one that I like. I really like this brown. So we're going to put some glue behind that and then give it just a little bit of a wider border this time. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut around this. And then we're going to come up. All right. And now I just want a touch of color to come around this, not the red. So I'm going to give this a very skinny border coming around that. Very tiny, very, 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 very tiny. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to trim right up this. And then come across the other side. And there we go. Mats and mats and even more mats. Yay! And I'm going to have this sit right here. Matter of fact, I'm going to have this sit that right there. So I'm using this edge to line up my piece. And we are going to use this strip right here. All right, so I'm going to line that up there, and I'm going to put this right in the center. Well, I'm going to eyeball it in the center. You can certainly use a ruler and mark out your centers and all of that. Me, I just, yeah, let's just put it down. Let's see what we get. Let's have some fun with it. And here, I am going to, now I'm going to pull in some double-sided foam squares because, yes, it's what we do. If you don't have them, you could use your scrap cardstock if you want. You know, enjoy. And I'm just going to put a row right down the center here. All right, and hopefully I put that into the right section. We'll find out. I just want that slither of red to come through. Yes! And there we go. And that is our next card. So we've used some of the cardstock to help. We've used one of the cut-aparts. We've added some mats with the pattern paper. And we've even done the inside of the cardigan. This is for when you don't have enough for a card base or you want to have something different. Again, you have this ability to have these different pieces come out. If you want to cover that, you can certainly add a strip of cardstock there if you want, or you could even take some of your cut-aparts and cover up that edge. Totally your choice. Okay, so that's card number 2 that we're going to have some fun, that we had some fun with. Let's look at our third card. And I do think that's, I'm sorry, might stop there, but you never know. No, maybe not. Nope. Never say never. All right, I want one of these large ones. I think this one's great. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a play with the pattern paper. But we're also going to be creating, as a matter of fact, I'm going to use this scrap right here. We're going to be working with our, with our solid cardstock as well, possibly. The solid cardstock for me and pattern paper, what that does, well, is it breaks the pattern paper. It breaks the design so that we can see that design. It's not getting lost in the translation of the card that we are creating. We can do that, though, with the pattern papers as well. When it comes to a paper pad, even when it's 6 by 6, there are both small and larger size prints that can be used. So I'm just pushing my scraps up to the top, especially those that I am not using right now. Cut aparts I'm kind of keeping close by. And I forgot what I was saying. So the difference in the pattern paper prints. Now I'm going to look at this. So here, I'm going to look at this one. And again, I'm looking at my scraps too. So saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to come down the center of this. And I want that to have that type of a border. And I want this to be centered. There we go. Maybe not perfect, and it's not. Sometimes looking at the back can be better. There we go. And now I'm going to cut the same distance away. So now I'm going to look for another type of pattern paper. And the one that I want of course is too skinny. Well, no, not really. Okay. When it comes to your mats can not only be your solid cardstock, but it can also be your pattern paper. Like in this case, I'm using the green plaid in back of the red. It's still not going to the edge of the first panel that we have here, but that's okay. And I'm just cutting across because we're creating a banner going back. Now I want to find something like that. But I first want to hit it with the green cardstock. So this I know is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I know this whole piece measures almost 3 1/4. So I want to make sure that this is 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. So I'm taking 3/4 of an inch cardstock off of that. And now I'm going to set that on there. Again, we are constantly building our layers, but looking at the designs going on top of those. So we have that, and now this piece is going to be, or do I want this one? Oh, I think I want that one. This piece is going to be cut 4 by 5 1/4. And now we're going to set this on top. And we're just going to center it. Again, we have not used any dies. We have not used any sentiment stamps. And now we're going to put this on the front of our standard A2 size card base. And because we've cut that panel to be 4 by 5 1/4, we have this small white border just going around it, which is another mat. And there we go. And notice I didn't cut any centers out. If we would have cut the centers out, this would have sunk in. Okay, so you want to keep them flat. It's a nice sturdy front with all of these layers. It doesn't add too much bulk to it, but I'll always say check with your post office. I will never say no, this will not add any bulk, because when it does, I'll get that comment. No. So always check. But now we got our third card done. All right, let's do another one. And what I'm going to do this time is I want some strips. Let's weave. Let's weave some cardstock. I'm going to cut some 1/2-inch strips. And you can have a lot of fun when weaving cardstock. I love weaving cardstock. I think it gives a really cool effect. I'm not going to use any of the solid for this. Let's see here. But what I do want to make sure is I have 2 of each. So let's see here. So I have 2 of those. So I always map this stuff out. Now it may be more than what I need, because I always do that. And I know I need one more of this one. They don't have to be perfectly. 1/2 inch. We've got that. Gonna have one more of these. I don't know if I have another one of those. And I'm still focusing on the scraps that I have off to the side. So I have these. Okay, I think that's enough. Yeah. Perfect. I think I'm going to keep those like that, because then I have some contrasting colors. No more solids. Nope. So before we put it onto our card base, what I'm actually going to do is we're going to map it out right here onto the table. So I'm going to get these lined up. I do like to have a little bit of space in between, and I think I'm going to start out with 3. I really do want another one of those first, though. My eye is just telling me I need another one of those. Okay. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a piece of tape. This is just... And I'm just going to tape right across those, just to hold them in place. All right, and now we're just going to weave. So this is under, this is over, this is under, this is over. And we're just going to get that placed right in there. We're going to do the opposite. So now this one's going to be over, that one's going to be under, and this one's going to be over. And we're going to get that. And again, keeping that space in there. Going to come in with the brown, again doing the reverse. Again, the reverse. And then I think I'm going to add one actually over here. Yeah. Okay, now I think what I'm going to do, now we can take the tape off, because now that we have the design down, and now we can just edge them together. So I'm just going to take my finger and just say, okay, you all need to just come together. So we wiggle them, take our thumb. And you don't want them to overlap, so there might still be some gaps, but as you're doing this, this is going to get tighter and tighter. And then we want to turn it and get those up there as well. And I think I'm going to add one more on this side because I have the room. All right, and now we have that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is flip this over, and I'm going to put tape. And that's going to help hold this together for me as I start moving that. Now see, that one's not taped. As I start moving this around. All right. So here we go. Because now we're going to snip, 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 snip. See how they're all different? They don't, you guys, now, for those of you that have been here long enough, you know that I am all about the wonkiness and the difference in sizes and edges. If you want your edges to be all the same, okay. Now for this one, I'm going to go straight across. And this one, we're going to go nutty again. Now I'm going to grab our card base and I'm going to look at this because I want this to sit right at the top or right along the top, and that's okay because now what we're going to do is we're going to glue this down. So I'm definitely going to have my glue up on top. And then I'm just going to mainly come down, stay close to where they cross, and just put dots every so often. Not going out to those edges. And I'm going to flip and get that down. Centered. Well, what my eye is perceiving as centered. We're going to press that down and then we're going to trim the edges. Again, pushing up those scraps. So we have a really cool pattern going on. It's not completely even. You could continue to build this so that you can have an entire panel created for the front. You could use solid cardstock as the base and then have this cut down to a certain panel. Whatever your choice would be, by all means. Now, I don't have, okay, I do have a cut apart, but I'm not really thrilled about the cut aparts, but that's okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cut around this tag. We're not going to make it a tag. Well, we're going to give the illusion of a tag. So I'm going to put that down there. I'm just gonna somewhat see if I can. I'm just cutting around this one. There we go. And we're putting that there. There you go. That is our fourth card. Again, we're still using the pattern paper. And I only had to go into one other sheet. Let me show you what piles I have left still. I have all of this left. Now, of course, that's not going to be saved, so I will throw that out. All right, and these little pieces won't be saved. But I have these. And I have that strip left. I have these cut aparts left, and I have these pieces of cardstock left as well. All right. So again, using what's in front of me. Now, I think this is cute as well. So I'm going to mat this onto this plaid pattern paper. I'm giving it a wider than normal border, and we're going to cut around that. Here's our card base. So I want to look at that and say, okay, I'm going to make this one a landscape. And just looking at what type of background can we add to the design. So I'm going to take some of these solid, and we've got the presents in the back. So that's a nice strip. And again, keeping this in the center. And then I think I'm going to cut a small strip . So again, having a play on the pattern paper on top of the solid cardstock. Now, I've used the directional paper in a specific way. So this has to stay this way. Now, we're starting to rock this back and forth. So I either need to put something on this side or on each side. And I do want to do that because I love these bells. And I'm going to be using these adorable little ornaments. And I still have these two center pieces from when we cut. Oh, well, look at that. Okay. So I'm going to use those, and I'm just going to trim a little bit off of the ornaments. And just get a sense of a center. Again, nothing needs to be perfect. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And what I'm doing is I'm taking this piece, realizing I've got great borders on that. I'm coming up, taking my needle or my nail right there, and then I'm bending up. So now I have a crease on that, and I'm taking it to my trimmer, and I'm cutting at that crease. So that's how I'm getting that size. I'm not measuring it because I will forget what the measurement is by the time I get it to my trimmer, because that's what I do. So here's one panel, and we're going to go with this panel. And we're going to set that. And now we have a panel to go on this side. And again, we can cut it down. So I'm going to take 1/4 of an inch off of that. That really shook my camera there. And then same thing for this one. I'm going to do the same thing there. Okay. So if you have a mat like this, you can set your piece down knowing that this is 5 1/2. The halfway point is 2 3/4. So I could line this piece right up there, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to get some glue down on this. And then I'm going to take this panel, and I'm just going to line that up right alongside in the center. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one on the other side. Now, what this is doing, because I have double layers on these, it's kind of helping to level out this piece in here, so that when this sits on that, we have this beautiful design. Now, we do still have an issue with the layering, and that's okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this piece here. Again, use those scraps. I don't want to use double-sided foam squares on this. I want this to be flush right against that. Let's see where we're at now. And I think we just need one more layer. And I'm going to use this one now. And again, I'm just making sure that it's not taller than the piece. And I'm going to overlap that just a little bit, that we're putting on top of this. Because again, no one's going to see that. Now we're just going to have fun. I'm going to set this down right in the center. I'm going to turn this over and cut away the extra. just going to add a little bit of glue to this corner. There we go. There we go. That is our 5th card, I believe. All right, so once we come back, let me clean this up. We're going to walk through and throw my glue across the table. See, this is what it looks like when I create. I'm just pushing things out of my way. We're going to go over the cards that we created together. So I'll be right back. Alrighty. This is what I have left from the pieces that I pulled from the paper pad. And remember, we pulled one more to get that color that I was looking for when we did the weave. I have a couple of the cut aparts left of the smaller ones, and then I think I have one of the larger ones left. Yeah, that's right there. So all of these will be put together with this. This is what I have left of the notepad, of the paper pad. So I got a lot left, which is awesome. So I'll put this together in one of my 6x6 storage envelopes. This is what I have left. So this came from one of the card bases that we cut away. This is what I have left of the green, and this is what I have left of the red. So about 1 1/4 pieces of solid cardstock that we used. And these are the cards that we created. Again, let the pattern paper do the work. It can do beautiful work. Now, again, if you have nesting dies, okay, that will make this easier, but you don't need them. You just need a straight edge. And when I say a straight edge, not a normal ruler, you want to make sure that it's got a metal strip to it, and it's not just plastic with no metal strip or wood with no metal strip. You're just going to cut into that ruler and it's going to go wonky. Okay, now if you also have one of those trimmers with the guide that you can poke into the paper, you can use that as well. But straight edge, straight blade, clean, sharp, works perfectly. So we cut out a frame. We made sure that we had color in the front and even on the inside to make it look clean. And then we also put some matching size squares here to cover up what we have here. We added one of the cut aparts at the bottom, and when we open it, we have one of the larger ones coming through the frame, which I think is really cute. So yes, you can do that just with pattern paper. Here we just layered and layered and layered and layered and layered what we had. Okay, we didn't go crazy because here had a piece that fit this cut apart, but this red wasn't wide enough. Why does it have to be wider than what we have here? Why do our mats have to go at the same size and just get larger? Let's start going this way with our mats and make them get bigger when this can be the focal point, and it becomes that focal point. We mix in solid cardstock, or at least I do, to break up the patterns, especially here. I have a plaid pattern and here's a plaid pattern. If I didn't have the solid cardstock in between, we wouldn't see that. We would lose that. And you can see I used wider borders on that to really ensure that we could see, okay, this is a plaid. This could be a stripe. Because again, we're only seeing those corners. So there's a method to my madness. So, but when you add solid cardstock to pattern paper, you don't need much. All right. So that's what we did with that one. With another one of our cards, we took some of our scraps. We did 1/2-inch strips. You can do any size that you would want. And we wove them together. I remember doing this when I sewed and absolutely loved it. Made tubes of the fabric and then just wove them all together, and the beautiful bags that were made were absolutely to die for. Why can't we do that with paper as well? Used one of the cut aparts, cut it in a circle, and then just added a tag off to the side of it. Creates a beautiful background on your card base. Here, well, we didn't have enough for a card base, so why not make the back the same size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Score it at 4 1/4, and then create an interesting front panel to the front of our card. To cover up the fact that we're missing this, put a strip of pattern paper on the inside of your card. You can write your message here, write your message here, but you have a great detail that's right in the front of your card. And then here we just had fun with our scraps, creating our layers. And here it looks like we added this layer, but in reality, that's the cut apart. Added a nice wide border with pattern paper, not solid cardstock. Only use the solid cardstock on the two side panels. And it looks like it's continuing through because it's smaller in height than this panel here. And we only used our scrap solid cardstock there around our pattern paper to give that a little bit of a lift as well. And again, we've got some cute cards. No, don't have a sentiment on that one. But we don't need sentiments. This will be able to sit in our stash, and when an occasion pops up, because somebody doesn't tell us, we have a card ready, whether it's a birthday celebration or for the holidays, which is perfect. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I gave you some ideas and inspired you to dig into those paper pads. Start breaking them down. You can get some wonderful and creative designs for your cards. It just doesn't have to be a mat and a mat and a mat and a mat with different sizes and shapes. You can actually create designs using your pattern paper. I know for a fact that this pattern paper is no longer available, so by all means dig into your stash. Any 6x6 pattern paper will do for these types of designs. Match up a couple solid cardstocks and you are ready to go. If you have any questions, make sure you leave those down below, and in a future video or on the community tab, guys, make sure you're checking that out. I am going to be utilizing that just a little bit more. So if you haven't set that button yet for notifications, make sure you do. A lot of information is going to come across so that you, those that follow me, will know exactly what's going on. I will answer them into the community because I am trying to film a little bit earlier than the days that they're actually coming out. So yeah, the timing could be just a little bit off with the comments, but I am reading the comments and I'm loving them. So keep them coming. I'm so glad from what I'm seeing so far as of today, you are enjoying the series. So that makes me very happy. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the thumbs up, and again, hit that bell so that you know when the next video is going to be live and ready for you to watch. Thank you so much. Whether you're new to my channel or whether you've been here since the beginning with me, thank you. I am truly grateful for all of your support, all of your ideas, and all of your encouragement. I'm truly honored and very appreciative. But I must encourage you all. Remember, enjoy the process. Have fun creating your art. Don't compare, just try. And the more we try, the more we enjoy. Don't get frustrated. Don't be stressed. Because when that happens, what are you doing? You're not creating art. You're creating it for another reason. And it's not for yourself or for somebody else. Just enjoy and have fun. But remember, always, always be creative in whatever you do, guys. And I will see you in the 5th video on our 3rd series, continuing with simplicity. And we're going to step it up just a little bit and use a collection. So I'll see you there.